Hello everybody and welcome to the presentation of Let's Design Social Media That Drives Change by Will Ghanem. And in today's presentation it will be narrated by Vicente Spindola, which is me, Maria Healy, and Abraham Alvarez. But before we get into the presentation, we must first know who Will Ghanem is. Will Ghanem was born in Cairo, Egypt and grew up in Abha, Saudi Arabia until he was 13 and moved back to Cairo. As he grew up, he attended Cairo University and earned his bachelor's degree in computer engineering, and as of 2010, he became a computer activist in the Arab Spring, in which will be talked about later on in the presentation. Lastly, he also has an interest in social entrepreneurship. Now, in the TED Talk, Let's Design Social Media That Drives Change, his intended audience is targeted towards three different groups, in which are social media activists, for them to get tips on how to make a movement successful by seeking his flaws and mistakes. Internet users, for them to take a stand and speak out and make their voices and others heard. And lastly, current and future web developers, in which advises them to construct and make safe websites and programs that are hate-free. So in the presentation that Will Ghanem gave out, it will be considered a public lecture. Lastly, the main argument that Will Ghanem presents is that he has no doubt that the internet platform is a powerful connection towards others, but it can only be perfected if it could also bring civil and thoughtful conversations back to social media.
Before getting deep into the analysis of this TED Talk, it is important to understand what was going on during this time. The historical context of this TED Talk dates back to the early 2000s when Arabs were flooding the web in hope to find knowledge, opportunity, and to connect with the rest of the world, hoping to make them aware of all the injustice taking place. In 2009, Well, just like many Arabs at the time, was living a virtual or alternative life on social media, escaping from all the political realities. Up until 2009, Well was completely apolitical, until he saw that more and more Egyptians were aspiring for political change. It was at that point when Well realized he was not alone. In 2010, while browsing through Facebook, Well comes across a photo that changes his life forever. Well runs into this photo of Khaled Said after being beaten to death by the Egyptian security forces. After seeing that horrifying picture, Well could only think to himself, I could have been Khaled. Well saw himself in Khaled not only because they were both young Egyptians, but also because they were both computer engineers. That night, Well decided to anonymously create the Facebook page We Are All Khaled Said. On January 14, 2011, Ben Ali fled Tunisia, and Well saw an opportunity, so he created an event called A Revolution Against Corruption, Injustice, and Dictatorship. Well also posted a question to the 300 users on the Facebook page. Well posted, Today is the 14th of January. The 25th of January is Police Day. It's a national holiday. If 100,000 of us take the streets to Cairo, no one is going to stop us. I wonder if we can do it.
As the protest becomes more massive, Zain al-Abidin Ben Ali, Tunisia's president, was forced to flee the country, and in just a couple of days he announced that he would not stand another presidential term in 2014.
On January 25, 2011, Egyptians flooded the streets calling for a change, breaking the barriers of fear and announcing a new era. A few hours before the regime cut off the internet, Well was kidnapped while walking down a dark street in Cairo. Well was kept in complete darkness for 11 days by the state security before being set free. During those 18 days of intense protests and riots, Mubarak finally stepped down. For those 18 days, Egypt lived a utopia and shared a belief that Egypt after Mubarak would be for all.
Muhammad Hosni el-Sayed Mubarak served for almost 30 years of presidency, making him the longest-serving president of Egypt. But he soon stepped down on the 11th of February 2011 as the Egyptian revolution took place and accused him of corruption and abuse of power, and was sent to trial, resulting him to life imprisonment on June 2nd, 2012.
The post-revolution events were purely toxic. The world Well had created was now a battlefield filled with lies and hate speech. Egyptians split into two groups: the army supporters and the Islamists. Both groups wanted you to side with them. You were either with them or against them. On July 3, 2013, the army overthrew the first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi. That day, Well decided to go silent. He remained in this silence for over 2 years. Well used this time to reflect on what had happened until finally he saw where it all went wrong. Well called these errors the five challenges of social media, which will be explained later during this presentation.
Mohamed Morsi was the first democratically elected head of state in Egypt history. He served presidency from June 30th, 2012 to the 3rd of July 2013, when he was prosecuted of murder and of using spies, which led to his sentence to death on May 16th, 2015, and was confirmed by the court on 16th of June that same year. Abdel Rahman is an Egyptian who grew up in Egypt and is 28 to 29 of age. Well founded him and made him the co-admin of the Facebook page We Are All Khaled said, and also his friend, with many similarities such as that he is also an internet activist and journalist with an interest in political activism and broadcasting.
Now, let us talk about his claims. Well, Ghanem claims that there are five challenges with social media today. First, he tells his audience that we get too caught up with rumors, which only exposes people's biases and spread very quickly to many people. He says, my online world became a battleground filled with trolls, lies, hate speech. I started to worry about the safety of my family. This reflects Will's unfortunate personal experience in social media that dealt with rumors, leading to a very negative. The second challenge he describes is how the use of social media leads people to follow the people they want to follow, leading them to have a very close minded perspective on many issues and not being able to think further and maybe change opinions. Will Ghanem supports this by describing his struggle to having to decide whether to side with the army supporters or the Islamists. He was stuck in the middle. He says the polarization reached its peak between the two main powers, the army supporters and the Islamists. People in the center, like me, started feeling helpless. Both groups wanted you to side with them. You were either with them or against them. The third challenge is that since it is so easy to post something on a screen and not see the people's reactions, it is easy to fall into aggressive fights online. Describing his past experience, Ghanem states, social media only amplified that state by facilitating the spread of misinformation, rumors, echo chambers, and hate speech. The environment was purely toxic. The fourth challenge is that people are afraid to change their opinions because of the speed of the spread of comments and posts. It is almost shameful to change your perspective. This is why Will decided to stay silent instead. He says, that day I made a very hard decision. I decided to go silent, completely silent. It was a moment of defeat. I stayed silent for more than 2 years, and I used the time to reflect on everything that happened, trying to understand why did it. The fifth and last challenge, Will Ghanem states, deals with the way people post things on social media and how it is a way of showing and telling rather than a two-way communication. He uses the word broadcasting to describe the way people are acting on social media. He describes people's reaction as a natural human impulse and says, because of technology, acting on these impulses is only one click away. Impulses drives people to just post opinions without thinking.
Well, Ghanem is also the creator of Partio, in which is the website that is made up of conversations of different people with deep thought and matter, as one would put it. In conclusion, in order for a movement to be successful under the social media platform, one must have discussions of importance and have a pleasant atmosphere as they are doing so, because if not, we will end up destroying ourselves, but mostly important, the movement of change.